Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle Tuesday night edition. I'm the Big Alboski. This is the Professor, and we are joined by Texas's own Marcus Jonston. What's up, bud?
Hey, how's it going, Big Al? How you doing, Professor?
We're doing excellent, sir. We're doing excellent, but not as excellent as you, I hear. But for that, we'll get into that. We got a comment already. Big Dave Motorman's here, and the Professor always sings the praises of Big Dave's comments because they're always really good. It's a good way to start the show, and that is after an exciting weekend in Seven Valleys and watching Marcus's first interview yesterday. So he went back and watched. Thank you for that. I'm excited to update on the career of the Spitfire on this special Tuesday edition. Thank you, Dave.
Maybe we should have called this Tuesday in Texas. Nobody else is using it.
Well, there you go. This Tuesday in Texas. That's awesome. Well, I didn't even think of that, Professor. There you go.
That's why I'm kept around. Brainstorms like that.
I love it. All right. So, man, since we talked to you the last time we talked to you, you were starting to get booked in different places. You were going out to Colorado, California, all different places. And then you kind of hinted towards the end about you were thinking about starting your own promotion. And since then, you have done so. I believe you had your first show in January. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that would be
January 7th.
That would be MPW, which stands for Motivate Pro Wrestling, correct?
Correct. Very correct. Yes.
Okay,
Motivate
so
Pro Wrestling. Our very first show was on January 7th, and we had a very, very successful, very, very good event. I was all smiles about 98% of the night.
Nice.
What was the other 2%?
We had a wrestler that kind of just wanted to do his own thing that night.
I got you. You always have them, though. That's the business, right? You always have those guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if a first show is 98%, you can be happy with it. That's pretty good for a first show. And that's your only issue is what some talent did, not somebody didn't show up or, the ring, something was wrong with it or any kind of technical snafu like that. It sounds like, yeah, you did have a pretty successful show.
Yes, there's so many things that in my head, I was just, you always prepare for the worst, you know what I mean? And in my head, there was just 1.5 million things that could have gone wrong that day. And everything went very surprisingly smooth. Like I said, we just had that one wrestler, which luckily everything was handled safely for them. Nobody got hurt. So it was just a very weird night for that wrestler and for myself and his opponent. But everything else was handled professionally, thank goodness. So everybody still went home happy.
So before you talk about that night in particular, let's back up a second. What made you start to think to do this in the first place? That's question 1A. And then 1B would be, how did you go about that process? How did you get started? Who were the guys that got involved with you?
So what really sparked it was about a year ago. I did a show for Pizza Hut in the same town. It was just out it wasn't for Pizza Hut, but it was out in the middle of the Pizza Hut parking lot. And it was a free show. It was just out on the main road. And we had probably about 300 people there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first show that I had done the majority of the work. Like I had pretty much brought in all the talent for that show. I had booked the matches, who was going to win, who wasn't.
Right.
I pretty much booked all that stuff out. I was only second in command for that show, but I was pretty much doing all the legwork. And when it came out to be that successful, I was like, man, that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. You know what I mean?
And you found you like doing it too. Like that was actually an enjoyable experience.
Oh my goodness. That was my favorite night of wrestling. I mean, and not because of my match, which I had an awesome match. I was in a stretcher match with Dr. Payne that night, and I mean, that was a hell of a match. Somebody brought that match up to me just the other day. So, I mean, it stuck in people's heads. But, I mean, I put a cake in my daughter's face, or I mean, I put my daughter's cake in my opponent's face. And
I was going to say, you caked your own daughter? Like,
no, it was her
Sometimes they deserve
birthday.
it, Al. You know that.
And all the wrestlers got a whole bunch of free pizza that night. The venue sold out of beer that day. I mean, it was just such a huge success, and I was like, I got the itch now. You know, I mean, it was just like when I had my very first match, or went into my first day of training. It was like, oh, now I got the itch. And my trainer had been talking for a good while about trying to start a traveling promotion that just went from city to city. And all that. And I told him, I said, well, I thought about it long and hard. And I told him, I said, well, I did so well at the last Border show. I said, we had 300 people in the first, at our first time I did it. I said, let me try again. Let me continue on until I fail. And if I fail, just take it out from under me. That's fine. None of that ended up happening, but I ended up just doing it anyways. And it was pretty much, I mean, I asked for his blessing and all, and he wasn't very supportive of the idea. And he got pretty upset with me about it, but, it was kind of one of those deals where, do I let somebody else decide how far I can go?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was something I juggled back and forth. And the day came, and as I told you before we came on air, there was one person that I reached out to, and I said, hey man, I said, I got this idea. I got a great venue for it. I got, and I'm real passionate about it. I'm going to promote my ass off for it. And if I do it, are you on board? Can you be there? Can you be my guy? And he was like, yeah, heck yeah, man, I'll be there. He was like, I mean, I'm very in demand. I was like, I do understand that, but when you can, if I can have you, would you do it? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. And so that was kind of okay, well, I got my guy. I got the one guy that I know if all else fails, he's there. Right. Even not even just as if someone doesn't show up, even not even just at the show, like he is a guy that I know if I'm in trouble with something and I can't just figure it out, I can go to him and say, hey man, what am I not doing? What am I doing wrong? Can you kind of coach me on this a little bit? And he's there for me. So when I knew he was on board, I knew I could make it happen. And I had a few other guys that have always been real supportive. We've always had each other's backs. And I knew we're good workers, have no problem traveling around. And so I hit them up and said, hey, I'm doing this. Are you on board? And they said, heck yeah, I'm on board. And so it just kept building. And then eventually, before a couple months had passed after I started advertising it, I had wrestlers hitting me up from all over the country wanting to come work for me. So
cool.
That's excellent.
Some of them are way out of my budget, but
right.
But still, it's nice that they think enough of you to be like, hey, I'd come in.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe that I will be pushing it enough and advertising it enough. I'm not going to talk about all promoters, but one thing I've experienced is promoters that are promoting on the hands of the wrestlers,
right?
Which of course wrestlers should promote themselves.
Absolutely.
But I'm also the only person in this area that's going to be working for this company.
Right.
The only person within about 50 miles. So it's pretty much on me to do all the legwork, whether I want the help or not, whether anybody else wants to help or not. I'm the only one that's actually here and can do it.
Well, the local promoting it locally is all on you.
Yes, but I'm very thankful because everybody that I've booked so far, they have been promoting their butts off online. They've been sharing it like crazy. They've been doing promos. There's been several that have helped me out. Hey, have you thought about doing this to kind of add a little bit? And, you know, a lot of people are reaching out and helping out because, I mean, I'm not even 10 years in the business, not even close to 10 years yet.
Right.
So I know that there's going to be a lot of people that I book that probably know a lot more than I do. And so anytime they're willing to throw suggestions at me, hey, can I, you know, what do you think about doing this to kind of make it a little better? Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for the thought.
Right.
You know, but I've also reached out to some people that, like Bob Evans, that has been a huge help for a lot of people in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a good long talk with him and got a lot of advice from him. And he told me, he said, man, for someone that is as young in the business as you are, he said, you're doing a lot of the right stuff. And he said, so just keep doing what you're doing, but add this to it. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So before we talk about January 5th, because that was a big night for you and it was your hometown and all that stuff, let's give everybody a look at the MPW Championship, which you sent to me.
Championship.
What's that?
It's the MPW Boomtown Championship.
MPW Boomtown Championship. So let's So that's a nice looking belt, man. That's a nice looking belt. Was that by your design, or did you have a team involved, or how'd that work out?
I had a good friend that helped me out with the logo. I was struggling with the logo. I had it in my mind, but I do not have the software and the know-how. I'm not really a tech genius to sit there and put together a beautiful logo. I can do Photoshopping all day, but whenever it comes to making a nice flashy logo, it's out of my creative area. And so I reached out to this guy and I said, man, I'm trying everything. Here's my general idea. I said, but I need it. Like, this looks like what my logo should be or would have been in the 80s. I said, so I need this updated to the 2020s. You know what I mean? I said, here's what I got, but I need it updated. And man, it took him probably like 5-10 minutes, and he shot me out the logo, that dome logo that's on the center plate. And I was just so impressed with it. I said, that's it. That's the logo, because it's in a dome. It's in the Borger Dome. So
Borger's your hometown. It's the Boomtown Championship. So how much did it mean to you to have that first event for your brand new promotion in your hometown? I mean, I know you probably did that by design, but like, you know, how I'm sure you had a lot of people from the town that, you know, were there, and you had a lot of, you probably felt the love that night. No?
Yeah, there was a ton of support. It's funny because I told the wrestlers that night in our little group meeting, I told them, I said, you know, this is not a wrestling town. 90% of the people out here in this crowd are not wrestling fans. They came here because it's something to do, or they're supporting me, or both. Because this is a small town and there's not a lot to do. This is a workers' town, and that is the Boomtown Championship is my workers' championship. And the reason it's called Boomtown is because Borger is the city where opportunity booms. So that's Borger's nickname, Boomtown. And I thought that was a good premise for the Boomtown Championship. And for that first night, yes, opportunity was booming for every wrestler on that card. Everybody except for the tag team match had an opportunity at that championship. So that's one thing I really want to promote, because like I said, it is a working town. A lot of the people in here, the median income for the city is like $24,000.
Wow.
And these people work their butts off. I mean, it's like machine shops, feedlots. I mean, you got the biggest Phillips 66 refinery right here in Borger. You got all kinds of carbon black plants, gas plants, all kinds of stuff. I mean, the people here They work their butts to the bone for next to nothing. And so I want to show that working spirit, that fighting spirit with that championship. And yeah, on the first night, it was almost like it was like having another baby. You know, it's like that feeling you have when you're having a baby. It's like,
Yeah.
I did that. I made that. You know.
Prince Piranha, fellow wrestler, Prince Piranha's here, says nice. He was talking about the championship belt. You know, because that comment came up right when I put the belt up. Chris Vant is here from South Carolina. What's up, Big Chris?
Yeah, so sure no stickers on that championship. That's all sketching and etching and painting, and
that's awesome.
They did a wonderful job on that.
They did. It looks so good.
Right now, they just sent me the graphics of the plates they have cut out. They haven't painted them yet, but they sent me the graphics for the heavyweight and the women's championship.
Interesting. So you said everyone on the card had a shot at that title. Did elaborate on that, because did you have a tournament? Like, how did that go?
It was somewhat of a tournament. It was the end of the night. The main event for the show was what was called the Boomtown Gauntlet match.
Okay.
And if you're a wrestling fan, you know how the gauntlet match works.
Yeah.
So the entire night prior, all the wrestlers, any wrestlers that won their matches qualified into that gauntlet.
Ah, okay, cool.
And then we had a couple of guys that were, you know, big heavies that were already in the gauntlet. They were basically the Goro and Shao Kahn of the gauntlet.
Right.
And so you had to not only win your match earlier in the night, but then you had to go through these two giants, which unfortunately none of them were able to get through the final giant, and Pierce Price prevailed.
So Pierce Price is the Boomtown champion. Is that right?
Yes, Pierce Price is the very first MPW Boomtown champion.
Okay, awesome.
He is out of it.
So you mentioned that you're going to have a heavyweight championship and a women's championship too. So does that mean that the Boomtown championship is kind of like the workers championship, kind of like the, you know, where wrestling fans would equate that to like the Intercontinental Championship kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be for the guys that are working their butt up to get even further than that. The guys that have worked their butt off to get to that point. Everyone, like I said, that was in that gauntlet had to work their butt off just to get into it.
Right.
That was what I really wanted to show, is that everyone on these cards are going to be workers. They are top-notch, phenomenal workers, every one of them. And I'm not even wrestling. I'm standing back and I'm letting these guys do it because I know
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
job, so.
There's nothing wrong with that. But you mentioned a tag match. You had a tag match. Can you talk about that?
Oh yes. Oh my goodness, that was the match of the night. So we actually had these two guys that are very, very new in the business. One of them, it was their first match even.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, they went out there, and I think it was probably a 22-minute match, and the crowd never got quiet, not for a second. These two were just, well, all four of them, honestly. It was Best Picture, which is Sebastian Envy and Michael Schaefer.
Okay.
Those two are amazing people, great to have in the locker room. I've shared a few locker rooms with Sebastian Envy. He's a great person. And then the two younger guys, one is the Red X JKM, and the other one is Thomas. I'm going to try not to butcher this. El Cuchomeno Silva. And they went out there. Those two, great. They went out there with those two vets, and they showed what they had, and they really brought it. And I think that JKM guy probably walked out with a nice little healthy merch sales in his pictures, because
awesome.
I saw kids walking out all over the place with them. And that actually leads us to something we're going to do in this next show.
Okay.
The last event I had the idea suddenly after one of the matches after one of the guys qualified into the gauntlet. I had the idea to do a raffle, a spur of the moment raffle, and the raffle was for a kid to walk the wrestler to the Boomtown Gauntlet match.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
He had cool light up little LED sunglasses, LED shoelaces, and LED hats, and a big flag, and a missing tooth. I mean, this guy had it all for the kids. He's got it all for the children. A big old pretty smile with his missing tooth. I mean, it's $1 million smile for sure. And but so we did that last event, and so this event JKM did so great and it was such a hit with the kids. We're going to do the same raffle and have the kids walk him out to the crowd.
Yeah, if you have that as an attraction every time, kids are gonna say, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, let's go to MPW because I get a chance to walk a wrestler down to the ring." That's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
innovative, right, Keith?
Wrestlers, just for the heck of it, they'll give you a piece of their merch. Like both kids that walked out, the last gentleman, Plex, they both went home with free merch from them. So
that's awesome.
That's something that anywhere from a 5-year-old to a 10-year-old would never forget.
You'll never forget that.
Exactly. And they're gonna be bonded to that guy for life. And like Al just said, then it's gonna be the next time they know there's a show, hey mom, hey dad, we gotta go. Because then they feel like the wrestler is their friend. They feel connected. It's like, I gotta go support my friend. I gotta go support this guy.
That's my favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
Right.
I've done that. I've done that with mine where they have their favorites and whatnot that they want to go every show and they want to make sure they say hello or buy something or whatever.
Absolutely. So, and that's a big thing. Like I said, there's not a lot to do around this town. So, many people for a long time, they're, when you're in your teenage years or early 20s, the only things there is to do is get messed up or get pregnant. And they're
right. Well, that's more in this country than you think, man. Like we got places in Pennsylvania that's like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jersey, everywhere, every state's got them. But I hear you. And that's such, like, I know it's not quite exactly planning. It's a little bit of luck, but it sounds like you've got a great location there because you've got almost nothing else going on in town. So you've got this opportunity to come in with low overhead and say, like, hey, we're going to run a show and it's going to give people something to do. And you don't have a lot of competition. You don't have other stuff that's going to bite into your audience there. And I think you got a real golden opportunity there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's only once a month, so it keeps the interest high. It keeps it to where they're not getting burnout on it. And it's funny because there was a lot of my coworkers that went to it, and none of those guys were wrestling fans before. And they were talking to me. I mean, they talked about it the whole next week, the event.
They had a great time, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every one of them, man. There was one.
Wrestling brings us together, man. That's the thing. Wrestling. That's what wrestling does. I got a question for you from Chris Vant. He says, "Do you find that the men's or women's matches are more exciting to watch? Which is more competitive?" We were going to ask you about women's because you mentioned you're going to have an MPW women's champion.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, as far as competitiveness, honestly, that's hard to judge because there are girls that I have seen go out there, women I've seen go out there and they look like they are just like, you're not taking this. I'm going to give you everything. You're going to be hurting by the end of the match. And a lot of them, they go back and they're sitting there limping, they're wiping their mouth off, making sure they're not bleeding, or and they got a lot of, I'll just say, fire in them. Even at the match, you can see it in their eyes, you can hear it in their voices, you can hear it how they talk to each other. I think these women are they're so determined to make their mark and make sure that everyone knows that they are just as big as anybody else, that they are doing, they don't give a they don't care about anybody that's getting in their way. You know, you're either here to be the best so I can be my best, or you're in my way. A lot of them, if they feel like someone isn't on their level, they don't really want to work with them because they're like, I'm here to push, you know, and it's I don't always agree with that, you know, but they're like, if I'm not in there with someone that's better than me, how am I going to better myself? And that's also kind of admirable in a way, you know. It's like, it's like how you say you want to surround yourself with people that are on a larger scale than you are. You don't want to surround yourself with people that aren't doing as much as you, because then you start doing what they're doing. But if you start hanging out with people that are more successful than you, then you start to be more successful. And a lot of the women, I feel like, have that same attitude when they get to be filmed. They're like, hey man, I'm here to be the best. And I don't care if I got to beat a woman. I don't care if I got to beat.
The thing about women's wrestling to me is that it's really gone a shift over the past. Yeah, there you go. You're back.
You're back. I think.
All right.
I think you're back.
But so I guess I'm sorry. I guess I got to rambling, but I guess to answer the question,
No.
they're both extremely exciting because you never know what to expect from any of them. There's no way to mark which one is more exciting than the other. As far as competitiveness, I think I'd have to say the women, because they are out there actually competing to one up each other and one up themselves.
There's less spots for them, right? Like there's obviously less spots, so it makes sense for them to work harder to get the spot that is available to them. And on top of that, most of them have to train with men because there isn't a whole heck of a lot of women to train with. So a lot of times they train with the men, and that toughens them up right from the get-go. And so they're already tough getting into the business. And what I've noticed, what Keith and I have noticed from going to these independent shows, is a lot of these women that we see, they have a fearlessness about them.
Yes.
Versus women you see on TV. A lot of those women you see on TV, they were trained, or they have names, maybe they have a family who have wrestling or whatever, and they kind of got in that way, or it's kind of made that shift over the past 15, 20 years from being the Barbie doll to being the tough girl. And we'd rather root for the tough girl. And then there's that rare occurrence where they're both tough and they look good doing it or whatever. But with these girls in the indies that we've noticed, it's more about the work versus worrying about whether or not how they look doing it. All they give a damn about is, I'm the toughest girl here. There's another girl across from me. I'm going to kick her ass kind of attitude. And they have that chip on their shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them they honestly already have to work harder than a lot of the men anyways, because they already go into the ring being what women's wrestling has been for so long. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yes.
They go into the ring and they have to worry about what they're wearing, how they're looking, what the fans are saying to them on their way down, stuff like that. What are the pictures on them or their ass, stuff like that. So they have to work harder to take their eyes from the gear to the wrestling themselves already. I mean, and I applaud them for it, because they go out there and they bust their butts, and they like a lot of the girls I know and that I talk to. I mean, they can go out there and they can out wrestle half the men because of that. They have to outwork them. They have to be able to outwork them to keep that as what the crowd's attention is on. Because if becoming famous off of your looks you know, that was great back then, and it was huge,
Right.
and it was easy. It was easy then.
Right.
You know, now your looks only get you so far with as in the big companies or with any companies, as we've seen.
Right.
And with the fans as well, because if they're not really paying attention to your wrestling, are they really dedicated fans that are showing up to your shows, or are they just, you know, watching the videos and getting pictures and stuff like that? Whereas, like, man, this girl can go out there. She puts on a show. There's this one girl I know. I've never even met her before, but I'm a huge fan of her just because of like her whole, like, she goes out there. She looks like she puts a hurting on people. She's clean about it. She doesn't look sloppy. And she's got these badass like Viking braids, and she's got this gauntlet with a grinder that she goes out there and throws all kinds of sparks when she makes her entrance. And I'm just like, that, you know what I mean? And it's not just her look, but she go out there and put on a dang good show. Like, she's not going out there shaking her ass or, you know, anything like that. She looks amazing. Don't get me wrong. She looks like $1 million, especially with all that cool stuff she's adding to it. And then she goes in there and she beats the crap out of you. And it's like, I like her.
Are you trying to bring her in, Marcus? Are you trying to bring her into MPW, Marcus?
Oh, absolutely. I've already messaged her a couple of times. I'm just waiting for that schedule. I'm just waiting.
Well, because my next question is, how are you going to go about crowning a women's champion? Do you have an idea in mind?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little.
Oh, I'm sorry. How are you going to go about crowning a MPW women's champion?
Well, I already have two great women's wrestlers that showed what they had in January. They will be returning in February. I have a new one coming in March. She will also, all three of them plus another woman will be there in April, and I believe that'll probably win. I bring out the women's championship, and do a fatal 4-way for it. And I have somebody very big that I have planned on being there, a Hall of Famer actually.
Oh, cool!
Awesome. As long as she doesn't get called away for anything TV wise. But if she is able to be there, she is going to be the one to present the championship to the winner of the match. And so I think that would be a pretty special moment for, you know, whoever goes over that night.
So, Marcus, my mom is chiming in. She wants to say hi to you at first, and she also has a question for the professor. This is a better question for the professor, because I have no idea. I'm looking at this question. I'm like, this is something Keith might know. Hi, Mom. Hey, guys. Do you know if Kevin Owens is a free agent anytime soon, I guess? And hi, Marcus. Welcome to my son's podcast.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's definitely not a free agent now. They wouldn't be featuring him on TV and giving him a shot at Roman at the Rumble if he was.
And hi to Josh, too. I know my mom's taking care of a special patient. Josh, how you doing, buddy? And also, so the answer to that question, Keith, is you don't know if Kevin Owens' contract is up.
As I know, I think he signed an extension not too long ago, and it was supposed to be a multi-year extension. So I think he's locked in there for at least a couple more years yet.
There you go. So a couple more years.
With Triple H, you know, head of creative and all that, that's a good bet for him, because I do believe Kevin Owens is one of those, what you would call a Triple H guy, where, you know, as long as Triple H is in power and in control of the book, Kevin Owens doesn't have a lot to worry about.
There you go. Marcus, you a fan of Kevin Owens?
I am. I like Kevin Owens. I'm a fan of most wrestlers, honestly. As long as they're not piece of crap people.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be, right? Like he seems to be a down to earth kind of guy.
Yeah, and as long as you're able to entertain, that's even if you're a hateable, like super hateable heel, if you're able to do your job well, I'm a fan. I have big respect for anybody that does this because it is not everybody can do it. It's highly, highly dangerous. It takes it on that level in front of that many people on a regular basis and travel that many miles and deal with the crap they have to deal with. I mean, they deal with a lot. I'm not going to pretend to know half of what they have to deal with, but I have huge respect and I'm a big fan of anybody that is able to stick it out and make it worth it for the people, that is in it for the fans and not themselves.
I got another question here from Chris. He says, do you have any hardcore matches or is it just straight wrestling?
No, I don't have any hardcore matches as of yet, but I have a company that is a big help to us about 50 miles away, Bomb City Bar Fights. They would your fan.
That sounds like a hoot right there.
I actually went to my first event, my first Bomb City Bar Fights event last weekend, and yeah, it was something else for sure. I've never been a fan of death matches, but I got to tell you, it was something. I was smiling and laughing and yelling.
Chris, that sounds like something you'd be into, the Bar City bar fights there.
It was anarchy for sure.
And it's tricky to run that stuff as a promoter too, because there are so many different rules and state athletic commissions and stuff like that. Like, you really have to ask yourself, putting your promoter hat on, like, is it worth it to me? No disrespect to the performers involved, but is it worth it to me to have that and potentially have that headache? And can I even legally do it where I run? Because there are towns and places that will just go, you want to do what? Well, you ain't running here. You ain't doing that here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this guy, he's been lucky enough. He's been running it for, I'd say, close to a year now. And from what I could tell, it seems to be very successful for him. So I'm very, very happy for him in that. And like I said, I went to my first event, and it was something else. And I've never been to one like that.
Let everybody know how they can find out about MPW if they want to check it out online, especially if they're not from Texas or in the Texas area, but also if they are in the Texas area, where they can find you next.
You can find us on YouTube, Motivate Pro Wrestling. You can find us on Facebook, of course, Motivate Pro Wrestling. You can look me up. I'm sharing more of that than anything else right now. You can look on my Instagram and TikTok as well. I'm working on getting a Motivate Pro TikTok going once we have a little more footage. But right now it's mainly just the YouTube, the Facebook, and all of my stuff. I have it all over there. And if you drive anywhere within about a film material somewhere.
So when's the next MPW event?
February 4th. February 4th at 7 p.m.
Same place, same venue?
Same place, same venue. We do big vendor events the same day before the event. So that kind of gets quite a bit of people out there and gets the community involved, helps the people around town make an extra buck off of our stuff, and they help us make an extra buck at the same time. It really helps everybody. And like I said, it gets more of the people out there. But yeah, we got that big Borger Dome. That's going to be our home base. We're probably going to travel around a little bit to Fritch and Stinnett, not too far. We're not going to get crazy and take it all over. Just these little neighboring towns that don't have anything. A lot of our sponsors are in Fritch and Stinnett, so we want to do what we can to bring something to their area as well. And it's only about 15 miles away from where we're doing it now, so it's not a big difference. And also check out our sponsors. It was Lee's, or I always say the owner's name, Cook's Feed Shack over on Broadway and Fritch. He's got all your outdoor stuff as far as hay and seed and feed and trees, flowers, anything you need around your house outdoors. He's got it for you. And we got OJ's Discount over on Cedar Street and Borger. And then we also have our newest sponsor, Scooters, which is also on Wilson and Borger. So make sure you check those out if you're ever in the area. They are a big help for MPW.
Now, what you just did was you just did 3 short commercials for those 3 sponsors. So what you need to do when we're done with this interview is you need to share it on your Facebook page and tag somebody from each one of those businesses. So that'll help. I mean, that'll really help. Because that'll really, that'll really show them that, you're all on the same page. You have them in mind when you're talking about your promotion. You mention them. You know what I'm saying? Like almost every time. So
I couldn't do it without them, honestly. Like they really saved my butt on this. They really do. And so we want to do everything we can to give back to them and, make sure that people know they're out there. We get them on all their flyers, and we're getting these little banners made to put around the ring that'll have their logos on them as well. We're getting shirts made that have the flyers on the back of them, so it'll also have their little logos on the back of the shirts. And we want to do everything we can to make it worth it. And of course, they get some front row seats.
Well, yeah, it's interesting to me when promotions get sponsors. We go to a little one near here called SWO, Susquehanna Wrestling Organization, and they just now this past month was the first time they had 3 sponsors. And I was ring announcing that, and they handed me like 3 like I had to, before I announced the match, I'd say this next match is sponsored by, and I'd read a sponsor card. So we had individual matches sponsored by individual sponsors, which I found interesting to me.
That's how we're doing it as well. If you do a certain sponsor tier, you get to pick which match you want to sponsor, and we'll do the exact same thing for you. And this match is brought to you by OJ's Discount or Cook's Feed Shack or Scooters. So
yeah, the professor and I are looking for sponsors for around the turnbuckle.
Hey man, I mean, just
every little bit helps.
Just throwing it out there, people.
Yeah,
we could do a commercial every damn time.
On here, and they'll get your name out every week. But I mean, I get a lot of no's. You just can't be intimidated by the no's. Just keep waiting until you get that one yes. I've probably gotten 50 to 60 no's for every yes. So
I'll keep that in mind. Pushing. So my last question to you is, well, not my last. I have 2 left, really. My second to last question to you is, what is the most important lesson you have learned so far while making that transition to performer to promoter?
Expect the unexpected. One of them.
Doing that, can you ask them to stop?
Be very careful who you have in your tight circle. Play a lot. You got to keep a lot of stuff close to the chest. Even some people that you do have full trust in, if you tell them anything, they can take it personally. And so just play stuff close to the chest, except for with those that you can trust. And sometimes you'll find out you can't trust the ones you thought you could. But that you can trust, take care of them.
And my last question to you, and unless Keith has anything after me, is, will you be watching the Royal Rumble on Saturday?
Yeah, if I can ever figure out how the heck Peacock works. I was trying to watch Raw last night, and it kept trying to show me last week's Raw.
Yeah, Peacock is just
Stopped.
has terrible interface.
Oh, it is the worst. I thought you couldn't be any worse than WWE Network's interface.
Right.
But
Yeah,
Peacock topped it. I mean, at least with WWE Network, you could try to rewind or pause or something like that. I mean, no telling where you'd end up when you hit play again. You may end up seeing some spoilers when you hit play again. But I stopped watching a lot whenever it moved to Peacock because it's so impossible to use. And it's so last night, like I said, I was sitting there trying to find Raw on live. It's actually on my TV right now.
Yeah, look at that. Yep.
I never could find out how the heck to watch it live, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just wait until I can watch the replay. And
well, listen, Raw. I mean, Royal. The reason why I asked about the Royal Rumble is the Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view of the year for WWE, and Keith and I are booked that day to present a championship at an event in Quakertown, and so he and I can't watch it live. We're gonna have to watch it like Sunday morning.
Oh,
I'm
probably gonna have to as well if I can't figure out this dang Peacock.
Right. So yeah, Keith and I have to watch it Sunday morning, unfortunately.
I'll probably be Sunday afternoon. I have to work every Sunday
morning. How was your time at Raw?
What was that? I didn't hear you.
How was your time at Raw?
Oh, that was phenomenal last night. Raw 30 was great. Did you happen to see it?
Like I said, I've been waiting to watch.
You were trying to watch it. Okay. All I can tell you.
Phone all day.
All I can tell you, it was like goosebump overload because you had like Hogan, you had Flair, you had DX, you had Taker, you had like so every time somebody came out, it was like, you know, different pops for different. And the loudest pop of the night, and believe me, I was shocked by this because I thought the loudest pop would be Taker, but the loudest pop of the night was DX. I mean, as soon as it was, "Are you ready?" That place exploded, and I don't know if that's a Philly thing or what, but that place exploded when you heard "Are you ready?"
It could be a Philadelphia.
Yeah, with Taker, it was an initial quick pop for the bong, but then he came out on the bike, so I don't know if that kind of deflated everybody or not.
I think that might have something to do with it. Yeah, when people have Taker, they want Taker, but I understand with what they were trying to do, and they were actually smart for once and didn't let the legends and the past talent overwhelm the people that were there currently. Like, they actually let people get a rub off of them. So I understood why they wouldn't necessarily want to put out a segment where it's the dead man and then have, you know, him not just choke slamming and destroying everybody. It makes more sense to do the more mortal American Badass Undertaker for what they wanted to do.
His interaction with Bray Wyatt was pretty freaking cool, and I saw it on social media that it was it seemed like a passing of the torch kind of thing because I don't know what he said to him. People are speculating what he said to him, but you know, if I had to take a guess, I would say, you know, something along the lines of, you know, this is your time. You're the guy now. Like you're the Lord of Darkness type character type guy, and you can be that for, you know, because there's a large contingent of the fans that obviously miss the Undertaker, so we need something like kind of spooky and weird like that. And Bray Wyatt does that. Bray Wyatt's a character, and he has a lot of ideas, and on top of that, he's a good wrestler. So, I mean, his product, you know, putting him with LA Knight, that's going to be fun on the Royal Rumble. But I have one last question here from my mom's client, Josh. He says, "What was your worst injury, Marcus?" Oh, he's frozen.
Apparently very frozen, and he's gone.
Yeah. Marcus, if you can hear me, try to go back out and go back in.
Yeah, he's trying.
Yeah. We'll see if he comes back. Mom, we'll see if we get that thing. But yeah, Raw is an incredible experience. I want to shout out to all the guys that was with me on in Philly on Monday night, and it was pretty cool. The matches themselves were actually pretty cool. I thought the Uso thing with Sammy was fun, but it was long. Like, it was
a little too long for my taste.
It was a half-hour
what they
segment.
were doing. Yeah, I liked what they were doing, and I liked. There we go. I liked it, but yeah, I definitely got towards the end of it, and I was like, I feel like we could have shaved 5 minutes or so off to get to where we needed to get.
You got Keith. You got your ECW chant though.
I did. I was very happy for that, and what a fucking master Paulie is that we got that chant, and everybody's like popping for him, and then he just turns that city right against him, bagging on the Eagles and everything else. Like, he just reminded them, like, oh yeah, we're not supposed to like him.
Marcus, my mom wants to know, what was your worst injury?
When I very first started traveling, or when I very first started training, I was learning how to take clotheslines, and I was not tucking my chin and breathing out properly.
Right.
And the way I was being trained was I was in the middle of the ring, and there was a person in each corner, and they each had a number. And when my trainer called out that number, I turned towards that person and took a clothesline. And I'd get up, and he'd call out another number, and I'd take another clothesline. And I mean, I took so many bumps, and I was not taking them properly. And I did that 2 or 3 days throughout the week. And then the next week I was still going, and then had massive headaches. On my way home from training the second week, I was pulling over like every 5 minutes, throwing up. Just could not stand the headache, just throwing up.
Oh, no.
I ended up going to the hospital, and I had a bleeding concussion.
There it is, Mom. He had a bleeding concussion. Oh, my gosh. All right, man. We're going to wrap this up. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about?
March 11th, RCW Renegade Championship Wrestling in Colorado, Canyon City, Colorado. If you are in the area or anywhere near it, make sure you're in RCW Renegade Championship Wrestling at the Mountain View Core of Knowledge. If you are anywhere in the Texas area, anywhere within 5 hours of the Texas Panhandle, I don't care how far you are.
5 hours.
I don't care. We had people come from Oklahoma, from Colorado. We had people come from all over just to watch the show. It blew my mind. But yes, come watch Motivate Pro Wrestling in Borger, Texas. That's with a G, not a D. It's a great event. You won't regret it, I promise. And it's only $5 to get in.
How about that?
Can't beat that.
You can't beat that at all. Love it. All right, Marcus, as always, man, it's a pleasure. We're always going to stay in contact with you, of course. I talk to you often, and I also watch a lot of stuff you're doing. I'm excited to go on YouTube and see what you've been doing behind, with your own thing now. And I'm excited to see for you, because it sounds like you're hearing from, not just hearing this from me, but you're hearing this from people whose opinion you respect, saying you're doing a great job. And that's important, because that means you're doing something right. I know you're going to make a lot of memories and a lot of good, entertaining events coming up for not just your hometown, but Texas in general and the surrounding areas. And I wish you nothing but the best, brother. You're always welcome here.
Thank you very much, Al. That means the world to me.
Professor, you got any parting gifts?
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming on, and I think you were one of our earliest guests too, so I want to thank you for continuing to support what we do. And like Al said, I'm really excited for what you're doing, because it sounds like A, you love it and you're really committed to doing it. B, I think you have a great business plan. You know what your area is. You've got great opportunity for growth, and I'm just really excited to see what you put together, because it sounds like you've got a lot of opportunity. You're saying all the right things about, let's expand but not be crazy about it. Let's be realistic, and I love it. It sounds like you're doing all the right things, and I hope you put together a little territory for yourself there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. It
Yeah.
really means the world for me, guys. And y'all were actually my first podcast too. So yeah, we're just
Well,
keeping
We're growing
speaking of
together.
that, speaking of first podcast, man, if you have any guys in your organization as you're getting going here that are young and green and need that kind of exposure, send them our way. We'll be glad to have them on, and just to kind of, if not just to get them out there, also kind of get them used to doing stuff like this to help promote the business and things like that. So yeah, send them our way.
Will do. I sure appreciate that.
All right, man. We're gonna get out of here then with to let everybody know that we will be back here. The professor and I will be back here next Sunday, this coming Sunday, on our normal time slot at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We had to move Marcus to Tuesday, and he was gracious enough to do that, and I appreciate you for doing that. So, but the professor and I will be back with Around the Turnbuckle on Sunday, on Sunday at 6 o'clock, and our guest will be. I wasn't ready for that. Because our guest will be none other than Jack Molson from Backbreakers Wrestling and 3WA fame here locally in Pennsylvania. So Big Jack, Keith calls him the White Mountain. Big Jack will be here next Sunday at 6 o'clock on Around the Turnbuckle.
Awesome.
I know you're looking forward to that one, Keith.
Having me.
I am.
What's that, Marcus?
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate you guys always, and always appreciate the support.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. And remember, send us some of your talent. We'd be glad to have them on.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Anything we can do to help you and help promote you.
I sure will. Thank you.
All
guys.
right, we'll talk to you soon, brother. For Marcus Johnson and the professor on the Big Alboski, this was Around the Turnbuckle. We'll see you guys next time.
You think you know me?
Oh, yeah! If you smile! Calculations are correct. When this